Today we're going to start our framing.
We have finished all of our cutting in our van, gluing in our windows, gluing in our fans, our insulation, and our floor. So now it's time to finally start building inside our van.
Before we can actually start building inside of our van, we need to have our framing. So that is our next task.
Let's get started. Framing is the process of building structural support for everything that we'll build inside the van. What I mean by that is we'll be gluing strips of wood along all of these structural points, kind of like putting studs inside a house. So when we build things inside this van, we can structurally attach them to the van. We've done a lot of research online looking at how other people have framed out their vans, and there's many different ways that you can do it. Our plan is to start with the ceiling and kind of work our way down. We have created a plan of what we want our inside of the van to look like, so we know where we'll need structural support. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to rip our plywood that we bought into 2.5-inch sheets. We had a bit of a rocky start trying to do this with the table saw. Our feeder table wasn't set up correctly at the correct height, which caused us some problems, but we corrected it. So we only have a few janky boards. We cut all of our sheets out of Baltic birch plywood, an 8x4 sheet, 1/2 inch thick. We got about 18 sheets. So now we need to cut them into the sizes that we want for each space that we're going to glue them on into the van. I've got all the slats for the roof cut, so now I'm just going to check to make sure that they are the length that we want. You know, I think these will fit just perfectly. The good thing about getting the plywood at a 1/2 inch is it's still pliable enough to kind of fit the grooves, so I don't have to make a flat roof. We'll have that kind of arch in our roof to save me as much headspace as possible. The first thing that we're going to do is install a rib nut right into the middle of all of these ribs, so we have something really strong that's going to pull the wood towards the metal. And then on the sides we'll use self-tapping screws, and then we're also going to use some marine grade Loctite adhesive, which will really bond the wood to the metal frame and make sure everything is super secure.
This is new to me. I've never done a workshop, woodworking or anything. So James is teaching me how to do it all. So when we get further into building cabinetry and stuff, I'm going to be more useful than just standing around. So James helped teach me how to make the hole and the countersink hole. So James did the middle one of this board, and then I did this with a little bit of help from him, and now I'm going to do this next one by myself as well. Okay, so I already have the whole countersink bit, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now that our boards are cut, pilot holes are made, it is time to glue it to our ceiling.
We're going to be using this Loctite marine adhesive.
They say to use marine adhesive because it is the best adhesive for continuous movement and I guess different temperatures. And since we're relying fully on this structure, we need it to be as strong as it can be. time for our final board onto our ceiling. Putting it in was actually a pretty fast process. I think the slowest is trying to put the adhesive onto the board, just because it takes a lot of arm strength. But just looking at our ceiling, it's amazing to see. We got wood on our walls. Like, what? We're getting so close. I mean, so close to building more stuff, but it's awesome to see how far we've come, and it's only been about a month, almost 2 months of work.
Now that we have finished the ceiling, it is time for us to work on the other parts of the van.
We have decided that we are going to focus on just the length of the van, getting the longest pieces cut first and put in before we go into all of the crossbars, the ones that are going to go.
The vertical pieces.
All the vertical pieces. So we're sticking with the same style of using one riv nut to help support it in the middle, gluing it with the marine adhesive, and then self-tapping screws on either side. We have already pre-installed all the riv nuts that we're going to be using, and luckily enough, the Ram ProMaster has all these holes already in it. 5/16 fit perfectly in the hex holes, so we just put one right in the center on either side.
We are marking all of the pilot holes for all of the ones along the wall now, and this can get kind of tricky because depending on how you want to put your board will make a difference of where your pilot holes are going to be. For example, this one, we don't want it to be in the middle here. We want it to be kind of on this flat surface right here. So that means I have to put it down just a bit. So what I did is I put it where I wanted it. I marked a line up at the top. I measured my line to the center of the riv nut, and for this one it was about 3/4 of an inch. So I just marked down 3/4 of an inch on the piece of wood. And then we also marked spots where we're going to put our self-drilling screws in. And then I just have them down the exact same length as where the riv nut is.
How many more do you have to go?
A lot.
All of our horizontals for where our window is. Right now it's not glued in. We're just testing to make sure that the holes line up correctly. Up here we had to go with 2 riv nuts because there was not one in the center. So 2 riv nuts, 1 self-drilling, and then down here we just have the one riv nut here. The bottom is a little bit tricky though. Down here we have 1 riv nut, but then we only have contact points where the metal sheets come out, so we're going to rely strictly on the glue and then our self tappers at the either end, and then just one right here. This is more to support the bench and stuff like that, so hopefully this glue is going to hold up. We're just out here working in the van, and James saw a gigantic hawk fly at the house, which was super scary because our cats are up there, and we were like, what if he just goes right into the window? But he didn't, and then he came back and landed on the house, and it was so cool to see. Huge. I tried to attack a pigeon. I almost got it, but it didn't. But crazy. Now back to work. A little nature break.
We've noticed when we were testing the boards that when we installed them in, the riv nut is actually making the boards out just a little bit from the wall. So what I've done is put a little indent in the back where it goes in.
I was getting too excited, didn't pay enough attention, and I accidentally put the adhesive on the wrong side of our board, and James noticed after I got halfway through and I was going the wrong side. So I'm trying to get off as much as possible, and then we're just gonna have to let this board dry. Everybody makes mistakes. Let's glue on the correct side this time. We've had to take a few days off on our building because we had a cold front come in and we can't finish up our framing because it was too cold for the glue to adhere to the walls. So in that time, we went and looked at flooring samples. Wow, they look really different in the camera. Yeah. So these are the two that we're thinking about. Not really sure which one we're 100% going with. We also looked at some stains. Right now it's just a big testing of what we like and we don't like, so we can finish up the framing and move on to our flooring.
We are in the process of putting our vertical strips on our wall. We put down this plastic because we didn't want a bunch of sawdust getting into our insulation that we put up. Starting right beneath this window, we decided to make these pieces a little bit longer than the top because I'm gonna box out this window by just putting a frame in it. So I wanted it to come up to where the bottom of the box will sit on. So that's why those are a little bit higher. Our process is we're just making pilot holes, countersinking them with a drill, and then using wood glue and screws to attach them to the wall.
So since we cut all of these pieces the other day and didn't get back to gluing until now, I went through and I marked all of our pieces for where they're gonna go so we don't lose them. Just numbered them 1 to 10. Well, 1 to 20 almost. We have quite a bit. But that way it's easier for us to match up where we're planning to put them and we aren't mixing up our pieces or anything. I feel like it's came in pretty helpful. Making it more of a progress. So we cut everything first and then we go to gluing. Keeping it all in a line, keeping it more organized, helps me out. I feel like James would feel like anything would be the same for him.
For this top part, this is going to be above our bed and we don't want a shelving unit right here, so it's just going to be a wall. But because we're not having shelving, we're going to have to find a way to bring our ceiling to our wall. So we've come up with these blocks as an idea. I've made them about 1.25 inches, so they just go above these ridges. And I've also mitered them at a 45-degree angle so they can attach to our boards that we've already put in going up. So we're just gonna put some construction marine adhesive to connect to the metal, and then we're going to put wood glue and a screw to connect to these boards going up. For this part of our van, it's where our bed ends when it's not extended, so our wall starts here. Because right here, this is where the indent is going to be. So we have these long boards that start from the floor all the way to this board that runs horizontal right here. And I want it to be flush with this board up here because this is where our cabinets are going to be. And in order to do that, I'm putting in these backing boards for the board to sit up to. I do have a Craig pocket hole, but these are 1/2-inch boards, and even then I would still need a board behind it so it would stay level. So I'm just gonna skip all the hard work and just do it with a backing board instead of with the pocket hole. We are pretty much complete with all of our framing except for above our passenger side door, but we're pretty happy with how everything turned out, and we think that we have a good foundation for us to start building.
Framing and furring strips of our van build, we took a lot of time just trying to figure out where we should put everything, how we should do it properly, because everything that we do from here on out is going to use these furring strips that are on our wall. So we took a lot of time to make sure we did it right, but we have completed the base framing furring strips because there are a lot more things that we have to do for this van.
Thanks for watching our video, and make sure to subscribe to our channel to check out our entire van build series.
See you in the next video.
See ya!
Bye!